FG replaces controversial Ruga with new scheme to cater for Fulani herdsmen. 2 years after the suspension of the controversial rural grazing area scheme in July 2019, the federal government has introduced a replacement program scheme, basically, called the Livestock Intervention Program to address the lingering farmer herder crisis across the country. This comes amid the federal government's intensified efforts to revive colonial-era grazing routes in many states across the country as per the directive by the President Muhammadu Buhari. According to documents from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, cited by one of our correspondents, the LIP scheme will see the federal government establishing 8 large herders settlements in each of the 6 pilot states, namely Adamawa, Kwara, Niger, Bauchi, Kaduna, and Gombe. The scheme is expected to be extended to other states following a successful outing in the pilot states. The documents, as well as interviews with some officials of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, show that the LIP is already being implemented in 6 pilot states. The officials confirmed that the 6 states accepted the establishment of the large herders settlements and had already provided land for the purpose. Unlike the controversial Ruga settlements, which started with 12 pilot states, the ministry officials said the government chose to start the LIP settlements with 6 pilot states, pending the extension to other states. They said 8 large LIP settlements would be built for herders in each of the states. Asked if the federal government would reactivate the suspended Ruga program since the clashes between the herders and farmers had yet to abate, the acting director, Animal Husbandry Department, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Winnie Lai Solaring, replied, "What we have now is the Livestock Intervention Project, and this intervention will take place in the settlements. It might also interest you to know that right now the intervention is being reduced to 6 states. According to the director, the 6 pilot states for the LIP are in the north because the region has large settlements and land to grow pasture. The states are Adamawa, Kwara, Niger, Bauchi, Kaduna, and Gombe," she noted. Lai Solarin confirmed that the federal government was establishing the livestock settlement in 8 locations in each of the 6 states. On why the government reduced the intervention to 6 pilot states, unlike the Ruga settlement that started with 12 states, the FMAR official explained that the outcry against plans to establish Ruga settlements led to the cutdown. She, however, noted that some states were still showing interest despite the initial widespread outcry in many parts of Nigeria. Lai Solarin said, "When we started, the states were 12 in number. They included Taraba, Adamawa, Plateau, Niger, Nasarawa, Katsina, Zamfara, Kaduna, Sokoto, Kebbi, and Kogi. They were 12 originally, and all the states are in the north." The speculation and media reports made people start saying the government wanted to take people's lands in the southwest, southeast, and others. And she added, "There was never a time we included the states in the south. Rather, speculation and miscommunication gave rise to the concerns by the people that the government was coming to take their land. The wrong information went out. Once they heard Ruga, they kicked against it. However, the concept of Ruga was to meet pastoralists where they are in their settlements and provide infrastructure for them there. But when that information went out, and because we have settlements in the south and other regions too, it was easy for people to turn around and say they, the herders, are coming to our states to take our land." But this was when there was no such plan ab initio. Never was such a plan made by the federal government. Lai Solarin added that the ministry had been carrying out diverse other interventions to mitigate the clashes between herders and farmers nationwide. The immediate past Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Chief Audu Ogbe, had in May 2019 announced that Buhari approved the Ruga initiative to address the farmer herder crisis. A month later, a former permanent secretary of the ministry, Mohammed Umar, announced that the federal government was to commence the pilot phase for the Ruga project in 11 states for a start, including Sokoto, Adamawa, Nasarawa, Kaduna, Kogi, Taraba, Katsina, Plateau, Kebbi, Zamfara, and Niger. The Ruga settlement will attract a lot of investments to Nigeria, and it is our belief that in the next 5 years, each Ruga settlement will provide nothing less than 2,000 employment opportunities. We are collaborating with the Cattle Breeders Association in Nigeria, Umar said at the time. The scheme, however, met with stiff opposition by southern states who saw the move as a land-grabbing move by the federal government for Fulani herders. The Benue State House of Assembly, for instance, called the removal of the signboards erected in the communities earmarked for Ruga settlements. In many southern states called for ranching, saying since cattle rearing was a private business, herders ought to buy land and graze their cattle on it, adding that the measure would stop the frequent clashes between the farmers and herders. Also, many Nigerians, including a senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, kicked against the plan to establish Ruga settlements in parts of the country, describing it as illegal. Falana argued that the Supreme Court had held that the entire land in each state was vested in the governor. Amid the outcry that trailed the Ruga scheme, the federal government suspended the initiative in July 2019. The government said the reason for Ruga was suspended because it was inconsistent with the National Livestock Transformation Plan, an initiative to establish ranches across the state. The NLTP was approved by the National Council of Agriculture in conjunction with the National Economic Council. States that keyed into the NLTP are to receive 49% funding from the federal government, while the remaining 51% funding is to be sourced by the state, private sector, and development partners. In February 2021, the federal government said it had mapped out 30 grazing reserves across the country for the NLTP implementation. Meanwhile, as of June 2021, of over 20 states said to have assented to the NLTP, only 4 states, Nasarawa, Plateau, Adamawa, and Kaduna, were said to be ready for the scheme's takeoff, according to the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agriculture, Dr. Andrew Kwasari. While the scheme is awaiting full takeoff in a new twist, recently, Buhari, in a move believed to challenge the ban on open grazing by its southern governors, said in an interview with Arise News that the grazing routes across the country would be reviewed. Buhari said he had directed the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami to produce a gazette which delineated grazing routes in all parts of the country in the First Republic. The president stated, "What I did was to ask him, Malami, to go and dig out the gazette of the First Republic when people were obeying the laws. There were cattle routes and grazing areas. Cattle routes were for when the herdsmen, were moving up the country north to south or east to west, they had to go through there." The president's statement followed Malami's criticism of southern governors for banning open grazing, saying their action was like banning the sale of spare parts in the north. I remember this. This was absolutely atrocious. This is it. This went into great detail, but I think it was literally factual, and it made sense. Put one thing about it, and don't forget to like and subscribe.